Many seasons of TV hold the title of nearly perfect in the court of public opinion. There's Lost Season 4, Breaking Bad Season 5, or Game of Thrones Season 4. But one television show and one season completely demolishes all of them, in my opinion. The fourth season of Dexter is a masterclass in writing and character development and is widely regarded as the show's best outing, surpassing what many consider to be the show's peak, that being Season 1. Season 4 not only replicates Season 1's formula incredibly well, but it does so in a way that not any other season had done up until that point. In 2009, when this season was airing, it pulled a whopping 1.52 million live viewers for the premiere and expanded upon that rating throughout the season, nearly doubling it by the finale, which drew in 2.59 million live viewers. Even though these records would go on to be smashed by later seasons of the show, Season 4 is what genuinely shot the show up into the stratosphere and kind of pulled the show out of the slump that Season 3 found itself in, managing to sort of reawaken some fans who had kind of started to move away from the show or had kind of gotten bored with the show's formula. How did the season accomplish this, you may ask? Well, they stuck to the same formula as before, but hired John Lithgow as the main villain of the season, and oh boy, John Lithgow as Arthur Mitchell is one of the best TV villains of all time. Hands down, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. There's a lot of hype on TikTok for this season because of John Lithgow's performance. We'll get into that eventually, and I don't usually take what people on TikTok say seriously because it's kind of an incel-ridden app at this point. They were right about one thing, and that is that this season absolutely demolishes the other ones, thanks to John Lithgow's performance and the incredible writing that it showcases. This season works as well as it does because of a few other things as well. Dexter's relationships, I think, are the backbone of this season, maybe more than any other season in the past or going forward. After this season, it kind of just starts to feel like Dexter's closest friends and his family are kind of afterthoughts in his life, and the tension of them knowing who he isn't all there. Anyways, for those of you who are not aware, I have a whole playlist of Dexter deep dives or recaps, whatever you want to call them, on my channel. I've been doing them season by season. So yeah, we're on Season 4 now. I think I started this like a year ago, so it's been a wild journey. I've been kind of putting this one off for a little while because I wanted to make it as good as I possibly could. If you are new here and you would like to go watch those previous videos, I have them linked down in the description. Almost a year after the end of Season 3, Season 4 begins with Dexter in a car mirroring the openings of both Seasons 1 and 2. This time, our beloved anti-hero is on a scenic drive outside of Miami. His dry voice utters those three words that he's somewhat become synonymous with and that the opening of every single season has adopted.
Tonight's the night.
Dexter explains that he's been trying his damnedest to adapt to fatherhood when the aptly named Harrison, Dexter's 3-month-old son, cries in the backseat of his car.
The driving thing didn't work, the singing thing didn't work. You planning on both of us not sleeping for another 3 months? Apparently so.
While Dexter ponders his next opportunity to get some sleep, the audience is introduced to the show's next big villain. The man is sporting Levi jeans and a short-sleeved gray button-down. Arthur is what you would call an everyday Joe. Contrasting him with previous villains like Lila, who sported jet black hair and a Bond villain accent,
Not like that.
as well as a mustache-twirling businessman in Miguel, Arthur really comes across like your average, everyday man. He's not wearing expensive suits like Miguel or flashy, dramatic, revealing clothing like Lila, which already sets him apart from those two as a person. In this scene, Arthur is drawing himself a bath, which we will come to find out is not actually for him, it is for a woman that he is about to murder. Arthur chokes the woman from behind while they're both in the tub, and then uses a razor blade to cut her leg open and watches her bleed out. In each of the previous seasons of the show, the villain wasn't often revealed to the audience until much later later on in this season. In season 1, it took until episode 8 for Rudy to show us his true colors. In season 2, while not necessarily a killer, Lila became a destructive force in Dexter's life over time, little by little. In the beginning, though, she was actually quite helpful and even charming to Dexter. It wasn't until about the halfway mark of the season that she seduced Dexter and began manipulating him more and more. In the third season, Miguel, who arguably isn't the main villain of season 3, was Dexter's best friend up until like episode 9 or 10. In all three of these cases, the story naturally led us to believe that these characters were simply side players until there was some kind of downward spiral, like in Lila or Miguel's cases, or until it was revealed in a shocking twist, like with Rudy. In season 4's case, however, the writers are directly saying, hey guys, look here, Arthur Mitchell is going to be a very important figure throughout the entire season. In my opinion, it's a really fun way to break the established formula that the seasons had kind of come up with. The next day, Dexter gets ready for court, and we are introduced to Dexter and Rita's lovely new, gorgeous house. Rita brings Dexter his phone and asks, how much are we living the American dream? And yeah, there's a real sense of that here in this premiere. Dexter and Rita have grown so much together, and now that Dexter has a house, a wife, and a child, Dexter has basically completed his metamorphosis into what Harry thought wasn't ever going to be possible for him. In the courtroom, though, Dexter completely flubs his way through reading out a blood report, having brought the wrong notes to court. Dexter humiliates himself and is tossed out as an expert witness. Afterwards, Dexter is confronted by Quinn, who berates Dexter for basically letting Benito Gomez, the man who was on the stand, walk free. Dexter chooses to take this very shitty situation that he's brought upon himself and look at it in a positive manner, hoping to capitalize on the opportunity to kill Benito himself. A little bit later on, Miami Metro begins their investigation of the crime scene from the start of the episode. It's here where we are introduced to the character of Christine Hill, a devious vulture that goes on to have a hand in this season. She plays a very big role a little bit later on, but here in the beginning, she's just kind of like a nosy reporter. In his office, Dexter runs a search for Benito Gomez's home address, and he figures out that the man regularly attends a bar called Tito's, which Dexter assumes would make a great kidnapping spot. Just as Dexter gets one step closer to fulfilling his next dark desire, he gets a call from Rita, who asks him to sing to their baby Harrison over the phone. The show often throws Dexter these curveballs that directly get in the way of him realizing his wants and desires. Sure, Dexter loves Rita and Harrison, but his other true love, hunting criminals, has had to be put on the back burner ever since Dexter had a kid. And you can tell that Dexter's having trouble finding a perfect balance as he's singing to his son while looking at these pictures of these dead bodies. Oh yeah, also in this episode we have this reveal that Angel Batista and Maria LaGuerta have begun seeing each other in a romantic relationship. The one thing that I kind of dislike about it is that you can tell that this storyline was bred simply because they did not know what to do with these two characters this season, and you could sort of tell, like, since James Doakes, Maria's kind of just been floating around doing whatever was needed, and Angel had that Vice detective storyline from last season that wasn't good at all and led to nothing. So they were like, let's just throw these two characters together and see what happens. The next day, Dexter tears off the linoleum that covers the bathroom floor on a hunch that some of the blood from the crime scene didn't belong to the victim, once Dexter figures out that these are two completely different cast-off patterns. After doing just that, Dexter and the others discover much older blood in almost the exact same spot on the floor. Also in this scene, Quinn and Dexter are yet again at odds, and you can definitely tell that this season is when Quinn was put into the James Doakes role of constantly questioning everything that Dexter does and trying to discredit his theories, very much in the spirit of James Doakes. Dexter compares the two cast-off patterns, and the next big bomb is dropped on this episode, and that is that Special Agent Lundy of Season 2 fame is back in the show for some reason.
Dexter, how's my favorite blood spatter analyst?
Great. How's my favorite serial killer hunter?
Don't get me wrong, I love Special Agent Lundy as a character, and I love his presence in the show, constantly kind of making Dexter feel uncomfortable, but it seems kind of odd that he just randomly shows up here with no explanation when we really thought that his storyline was over. That night, Dexter heads to an abandoned boxing ring that he believes will make an excellent kill room for Benito Gomez. While waiting at Tito's bar for Gomez to leave, Dexter falls asleep and eventually is woken up by a police officer. This allows Gomez to escape, which postpones Dexter's opportunity to kill him. The next day, Vince shows up in Dexter's office and reveals that the DNA in the old blood swab is unidentifiable. So Dexter searches the database for people that have died in that specific apartment.
Vicky Noonan, 22, found in the bathtub.
Bled out, incision to her thigh. What are the chances of that?
Just then, Lundy walks in and learns of Dexter's findings before he explains his theory why the two kills were so similar.
I call him the Trinity Killer. Kills in threes. Been doing it all over the country for years. Problem is, I can't prove he exists. I've been looking for a break, and this happens.
Lisa Bell.
Her murder profile fits the previous victims. Trinity's in Miami, Dexter. Starting a cycle all over again.
Also, Deb reunites with Lundy, and let's just say things are very awkward between the two.
Anton, I have to go. I have a meeting.
At the end of the episode, Dexter snatches Gomez from his home and brings him to the boxing ring. This is presumably the first kill Dexter has made since the birth of his son, and just like Season 2's first kill, it's just a little bit chaotic. This is when Dexter gets a call from Rita at the worst possible moment. Dexter haphazardly clears the body from the boxing ring and leaves the scene to grab Harrison's medication. On the way to the drugstore, Dexter falls asleep at the wheel from exhaustion and gets into a car crash, which ends the premiere episode of Season 4. The first episode of the season is a pretty decent follow-up to the Season 3 finale. The episode might seem somewhat tame when compared to some of the ones that come up later, but that's because the majority of this season is non-stop action and intensity. Arthur's introduction in this episode is done extremely well, as it gives the audience just a taste of his diabolical behavior and personality, without outright giving his full MO away quite yet. Dexter's status as a new dad also keeps the show feeling fresh and new, despite every season premiere being somewhat of a carbon copy of the one that came before. The start of the second episode carries on over from the previous episode's ending, with Dexter being removed from the car accident that he has just sustained. The only problem with this situation, of course, is that Dexter never actually finished disposing of Benito's body. At the hospital, Dexter learns that he suffered a concussion and must stay in the hospital for the next 12 hours so that the doctors can continue to monitor him. When Rita arrives, Dexter explains that the accident wasn't that bad at all, and that the doctor has given him permission to go. So he basically straight up lied to Rita in order to get out of staying at the hospital so he can get back to looking for Benito's body. Later that morning, Dexter heads to work and is confronted by Lundy once he gets there, which prevents him from heading to the motor pool to retrieve his totaled car. Once Dexter learns that the body is no longer in the car, he realizes that Benito's body must have been thrown from the vehicle during the accident, so he heads straight to the scene of where the car crash took place to look for said body. But that's not going too well for Dexter. He has a vision of Harry, and because he just had a concussion less than 12 hours ago, he is dazed and confused, and he doesn't know what the fuck is happening, and he can't find Benito's body. So he has to head back to work, basically. At a new crime scene, Dexter has trouble collecting himself, knowing that Benito is out there somewhere, ready to be found by the cops, but he has to kind of stay focused on the case at hand. He goes out for some air and notices a blood drop lying on a cactus needle, which allows him to leave to go test this blood, which gets him one step closer to clocking out for the day. Dexter then has a vision of Harry, who warns him that he's carrying too many things all at once on his shoulders.
And you've got a family to support and people to dismember. You're spinning too many plates, Dexter.
The sooner I wrap this up, the sooner I get to the boxing arena.
There are an ungodly number of scenes this season just like this one, So I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to talk about all of them because they all essentially play out the exact same way, with Harry issuing Dexter a warning that Dexter has too many responsibilities and this double life that he is living is not sustainable. Oh, also in this scene, Dexter notices that Quinn is stealing money from a dead man. Dexter just turns his back to it and pretends like he doesn't see anything. I wonder if this is going to be important later. At the boxing ring, Dexter looks around, hoping to find a trace of Benito. He finds a blood spot in the middle of the canvas and beats himself over this crucial mistake, which honestly could have led to his downfall if he didn't go back there to check on it. Dexter is a very meticulous and methodical killer, and he almost never leaves behind any trace evidence, so this kind of a fuck up for him is very rare. The code set forth by Harry was a strict set of rules and guidelines that could help shape Dexter into a perfect killer, unable to be caught by the police. This is sloppy work, though, in the eyes of Dexter, and would have been seen as sloppy work in the eyes of Harry. Elsewhere, Deb and Lundy have lunch together, and Deb is having trouble reconciling the fact that Lundy is back in her life.
I haven't seen you, spoken to you, or exchanged so much as a fucking Christmas card with you in 2 years. And all of a sudden you're in Miami, holding a pair of chopsticks without so much as an email saying, hey, remember me? We used to fuck.
She clearly still has feelings for him. Not all positive, considering the fact that he left her to take a job across the country at the end of season 2. I also want to point out the fact that Deborah and Lundy were only together in the show canonically for like a month, and then they proceeded to not see each other for an entire year or more, and yet she's acting like it's the end of the world that he's back in her life. After this, Deb and Lundy interrogate a suspect that they believe could have been Trinity.
Same house.
No fucking way.
Yes, fucking way. Sort of put you at number 1 person of interest-wise.
This man claims that he was unfairly convicted of his wife's death back in the day, and that it had to have been some other man that killed her. They also point out that the man seemed a little bit too nervous and kind of squirmish to be the Trinity Killer, who is thought of as this meticulous, by-the-book serial killer. I think that's putting the cart before the horse, though, because at this point they don't even know that there is a Trinity Killer for sure. It's just a theory at this point. In another scene, Arthur stalks his next victim outside of a cafe. He follows her around this pier and then runs into her son.
It was an accident.
It's okay, kiddo. It happens. What is that, strawberry?
Bubblegum gelato.
How, repulsive. You better catch up with your mom.
You don't want to lose her.
Arthur interacts with the woman he's been stalking all episode, named Tarla. He helps her bring her groceries inside her home before watching her walk inside like a peeping Tom. On the surface, Arthur is such an average-looking, church-going grandpa that when he finally lets that mask slip, he's absolutely horrifying. I will probably go on to praise John Lithgow's performance like 100 times in this video. He was the perfect casting for this role because nobody could have played both sides of Arthur quite this well like John Lithgow did. So props to him. I'm probably going to keep saying it, but he's just really magnificent in this role. At Lundy's apartment, Deb explains her intentions to keep this relationship strictly professional between Lundy and herself, and Lundy replies with,
The reason I'm in Miami is because I'm convinced that these bathtub murders, Noonan's wife, Lisa Bell, are connected to a series of murders all over the country.
Oh.
It's become something of an obsession of mine, and I'm not about to ride off into the sunset and dump something this horrific on whoever gets my office next.
Also, after Maria takes Angel off of his case by the recommendation of the mayor, Angel confronts Maria in her office. Together, the duo decide that maybe they need to take a break. However, they don't. And at the end of the episode, Dexter realizes that he had stored Benito Gomez's body up in the punching bag right above the ring. This episode is definitely fun and exciting as it places Dexter in a completely foreign situation. 99% of the time, Dexter is completely on top of his game, but it's always a pleasure to see him encounter a challenge. I will say that this episode does feel a little hampered by its convenient ending. I much would have preferred it if Benito had been found by the investigators, as that would have added even more tension to the existing go 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 pace of the episode. Seeing Dexter go on this wild goose chase for the body just for it to end up being inside the punching bag doesn't come off as the stroke of genius that the writers think it does. It kind of makes Dexter seem even dumber than if he had just accidentally lost the body while in a car crash. Dexter purposefully placing Gomez's body above the ring for him to find later, only for him to conveniently get into a car accident right after, prohibiting him from remembering that he unusually broke his pretty tried and true method of disposing bodies, literally, like I said, makes him look stupid. But anyway, enough of the rant, let's get on to the third episode. The beginning of the third episode opens with Dexter being scolded by Rita for not telling her he had a concussion in the last episode. At this barbecue, Dexter learns about a neighborhood vandal that's been running around terrorizing the neighborhood. That night, Trinity forces Tarla, the woman that he was stalking in the last episode, to jump off of a giant, industrial building that's been abandoned onto the pavement down below. This killing is very different from the bathtub scenario from episode 1, and it helps set up Trinity's MO really well. We'll get a little bit more into that later on, but just know that he doesn't kill one specific type of person in one specific type of way. After the woman jumps, Arthur spreads a tiny fingerprint of what appear to be ashes next to the woman's dead body. The next day at the precinct, Dexter and Deb and pretty much everyone else at the precinct are called in to this apparent suicide. Lundy shows up and explains that he wouldn't be surprised if a woman fell to her death at this exact same location 30 years prior if Trinity's pattern is to stay consistent. Dexter overhears this conversation and begins wondering why Trinity leaves his victims to be found. It's completely antithetical to Harry's code and therefore Dexter's entire mission as a killer. Do not get caught. That is rule number 1 of Harry's code. Dexter really admires this guy's work as much as he finds him kind of abhorrent.
I make my bodies disappear. Trinity leaves his out in the open, supremely confident that no one will ever trace them to him.
Dexter then returns home to a surprise neighborhood watch, where everyone in the neighborhood is going to try and figure out what they need to do in order to take precautions against this neighborhood vandal. The next morning, the team demonstrates a recreation of Tarla's fall. Lundy goes on to explain Trinity's MO, and how his life most likely looks.
What's really impressive is that I can't prove a thing. He's that good.
Why do you think he's so successful?
Trinity's likely someone who's gone his own solitary way through life, so preoccupied with his own obsessions that he's forgone all but the most rudimentary of human connections.
Lone wolf.
Exactly.
Back at the precinct, Deb is told by Masuka that Tarla's trajectory from the building to the ground leads him to believe that she jumped instead of fell or was pushed because, I don't know, she would have landed further out if she was pushed. Quinn then chimes in and says that a week ago, Tarla was diagnosed with cancer, and that would explain her apparent suicide here. Deb has a gut feeling that there's more to the story here.
Maybe she was determined to fight it. That doesn't mean she killed herself. I checked her cell phone records. No text messages, no suicide note.
Deb then drives Dexter home, and the two bond over their shared resentment of their relationships. Dexter feels completely surrounded in his white picket fence neighborhood. It's quite overwhelming for Dexter. Previously, he had no commitments, and now suddenly there's this neighborhood watch thing, and there's the family barbecues, and there's the, all of the shebang that comes along with being a neighborhood dad. Deb, on the other hand, feels like her relationship with Anton has soured since he came back from tour. Both siblings kind of feel separately stranded in their own perfect little lives, and it's a really nice parallel that runs throughout this episode and through a good portion of this season as well. That night, Dexter breaks into his teenage neighbor's house and notices that he is asleep while the vandal is still outside, which reveals that the boy's father, Andy, is actually the vandal, and instead of Dexter killing someone this episode, he just kind of gives this guy a stern talking to. After this, Dexter returns home and decides to destroy the motion sensor light outside of his house. And in true 2000s soap opera fashion, Rita sees him do this and just stands there and glares at him. This episode is one of the more tame offerings from this season. The vandalism storyline is just pure filler and stands in for Dexter's regularly scheduled kill. The storyline does fit into this season as we're getting to know Dexter's neighbors and how Dexter feels like a bit of an outsider when compared to them. One of Dexter's main storylines this season is his insecurity in feeling like a normal person surrounded by all of these all-American families living just next door to him. At the beginning of the 4th episode, Dexter follows Pembroke Pines police officer Zoe Kruger to the gun range before informing the audience that 8 months prior, Zoe killed her husband and daughter in cold blood. According to Dexter,
Zoe was shot in the arm and foot. She survived, obviously.
Shortly thereafter, Dexter heads to the Pembroke Pines blood guy and asks him about Zoe's case. The blood guy gives his professional opinion that Zoe got away with murder, which gives Dexter the confirmation that he needs. After the morning meeting, Maria tries to convince Angel to let her talk to the higher-ups at the station about their relationship, and Angel is very much against doing this because he doesn't want to get demoted and he doesn't want either of them to have to transfer out of homicide, and he also just thinks that it's kind of a shitty thing to do while they're still trying to figure out what their relationship even is. This leads to yet another argument between the two, and it feels like almost every single episode this season so far, any scene that involves these two together is an argument scene. Together though, they decide to wait to tell the higher-ups about their relationship. They still haven't quite figured out what it even is yet. That night, Dexter looks at the images in Zoe's case file.
She was still wearing gloves when she shot herself, but they were gone when the EMTs arrived.
The next night, we watch Arthur provoke a man outside of a bar, hoping he will get attacked by the man, and it's a really interesting scene. It's another layer added onto Trinity's character. The next day, Dexter tours Zoe Kruger's house that is for sale, looking for the gloves that she used when she killed her family.
She swiped the door with blood here, shoots herself, collapses, crawls toward the kitchen to call 911.
Zoe then walks into the scene and introduces herself to Dexter. When Zoe shows Dexter around, Dexter pretends to be a flirt in order to cover up his real intentions. When Dexter asks Zoe where her family is, Zoe spins a lie that her husband took the kids and left her alone. And in this scene, you could just tell this woman has no remorse about the situation. She's not even struggling to get through this lie, like it just rolls off her tongue like it's nothing. The woman then leaves the scene so Dexter can fish the glove out of the garbage disposal. Elsewhere, Lundy arrives at the bar, which is now like a bunch of office spaces. Just as Arthur walks outside of this building, he runs into Lundy and the two have like a little bit of an interaction.
Lobby's open 24 hours. Guard on duty. Too much foot traffic. Trinity to have to choose another floor.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Wasn't watching where I was going.
Bus number 432. White male, maybe 6'4". 200, 220 pounds. Age around 60. Hair gray. Eyes blue. Something in them.
A little bit later on, Dexter is pulled over by Zoe, who has since done her own investigation on Dexter and found out that Dexter's been looking into her past. Zoe lets Dexter off with a warning, and when Dexter returns home, he has another talk with Ghost Harry, who, this time, is actually in favor of murdering Zoe because she knows too much about Dexter. The next morning at the gas station, Zoe again confronts Dexter after Dexter deliberately called up Pembroke Police Records Department in order to further look into Zoe's case and provoke her into meeting him there. In the bathroom, Dexter officially accuses Zoe of murdering her family, claiming that he has proof that she did it, which causes her to pull a gun on him and claim that she's going to tell everyone that he tried to rape her so that she gets off scot-free for killing him.
Except the blowback of my blood into the muzzle of your gun will show a flat contact shot that's highly unlikely during a struggle.
Knowing that she can't actually get away with doing this, she leaves the bathroom before issuing one final warning to Dexter that if he tries to expose her, then she is gonna go after him, because she has no idea at this point that Dexter's capable of murder. At this point, she just thinks that he's going to expose her. That night, Deb shows up at Lundy's apartment and the two begin making out. I feel bad for Anton, but like, he literally is doing nothing this season. At Dexter's house, Zoe breaks in. Anticipating that she's going to be doing this, Dexter sneaks up from behind her and tranquilizes her, which knocks her out. After tying the woman down, Dexter gets inside of her head.
I know something about creating a narrative, too. Your suitcase is packed, your car will be left at the port, and the blue glove is back in your disposal.
You gonna rape and kill me?
What is it with you and rape? No one's raping anyone.
Zoe then gives Dexter an omen before her death. He's going to have to choose between murder and his family. Zoe's prediction for Dexter is enough to get him to have a real visceral reaction to the idea of losing his family.
You can't hide what you are.
Oh, I can. I'm better at it than you.
You will choose your life over theirs.
I won't. I'd rather risk them knowing the truth than lose them.
Which kind of pulls him back to reality after the last couple episodes, which have seen him misbehaving a little bit. Then Dexter finally kills the woman, which ends the episode. Or should I say almost ends the episode, because at the very end of it, after Deb and Lundy's beautiful romantic reunion, they are standing there about to go their separate ways, feeling a little bit guilty about the fact that they just basically cheated on Anton. Well, Deb cheated on Anton. And suddenly, as they're about to say goodbye to each other, Deb is shot from behind and Lundy is shot in the chest, which does kill Lundy. Boy, is that like one of the best cliffhangers of the entire show. I mentioned earlier that the end of episode 3 felt very like soap opera-y. This one, don't even play. This episode is fantastic, and the end of this episode leads to a wonderful arc for the rest of the season that I don't think that there is a dud episode in this season going forward. The rekindling of Deb and Lundy's relationship was really fascinating to see. I am very sad that Lundy is gone because he was one of my favorite characters of the show, despite how little they used him. But it is in service to the plot this season. And then also in this episode, I really loved the Zoe Kruger storyline. Like, the actress did a wonderful job, and her rapport with Dexter was done really well. And also, I feel like the show doesn't really explore female killers all that much. It was interesting to see, like, the female side of that coin. The 5th episode opens with Dexter arriving at the scene where Deb and Lundy were shot. In complete panic mode, Maria informs Dexter that Lundy is dead and Deb is stable. Miami Metro believe that this shooting is the latest murder in the vacation murders spree, but Dexter, in his mind, dismisses this as a possibility because the killer left Deb alive, and that is not the killer's MO. Dexter heads over to Lundy's place on the way to the hospital to visit Deb, where he decides to pick up all of Lundy's research, or a lot of Lundy's research, try to find Trinity and get it over with. Elsewhere at the hospital, Deb wakes up and Dexter is by her side.
I didn't even know I'd been hit until I was on the ground.
You're safe. I'm here.
He had this look in his eyes. It was like he was apologizing. I was helpless.
Guys, Jennifer Carpenter, I think we need to start having a serious conversation about why she was snubbed at the Emmys. What a performance. Just then, Rita arrives at the hospital and confronts Dexter about why he lied again, this time about keeping his apartment a secret from her. So we begin to notice a pattern here where Dexter continuously keeps things from Rita, and little by little, Rita is chipping away at that mask and at that facade to see that Dexter's been lying about all of these things. And I'm not saying it doesn't lead anywhere interesting, but I feel like they could have done just a little bit more with it and pushed the limit of it a little bit more, because eventually this storyline doesn't end up meaning a whole lot. But it is interesting to slowly see Rita become a little less trustful of her husband, like she was in season 2. It gives Rita something else to do in the plot than just, be a stay-at-home mom. Meanwhile, at his apartment, Dexter has to try and come to terms with the fact that Rita's basically forcing him to get rid of the thing. And Dexter can't really cope with that because he needs his personal space to store his killing supplies and the blood slides. And, just it's nice to have a space of your own, and that house that he lives in with Rita kind of feels like it's suffocating him a little bit. That's how he feels anyway.
If I have to give up this place, what will I do about my roommate? The dark passage. This apartment is the only thing that's helped me keep the mask in place. Without it, I'll burst.
Back at the hospital, Deb officially breaks up with Anton, and I don't believe we ever see him in the show again, which is kind of unfortunate because he didn't really end up doing anything in the show, like at all. His whole purpose in season 3 was to cause tension between Joey and Deb, and for there to be something for Deb and Joey to work towards with the Skinner plotline. But then after that, this whole season so far, he's done literally nothing but sway in the background. Oh yeah, Batista is informed by Maria that she has officially gone behind his back to tell the higher ups that they are seeing each other. I gotta say, don't know if I agree with that one, Queen. This, of course, leads to another argument between the two, and I think we are 5 for 5 at this point. We've gotten one argument between Batista and Maria in all 5 episodes of this season. The next day, Deb moves into Rita and Dexter's place, seeing as she's recently broken up with Anton and literally has nowhere else to go after the hospital. Also, while listening to some of Lundy's tapes, Dexter gets a physical description of the killer, thanks to Lundy literally seeing who he thought could have been Trinity. Everyone in the precinct except for Dexter then heads over to a motel room to find Johnny Rose, the suspected vacation murderer. And they end up finding him, but he is dead on the floor, and his girlfriend has just fled the scene in a back alley. Eventually, though, they arrest her, and Miami Metro believes that Deborah and Lundy have gotten justice for their shooting. Right after this scene, Deputy Matthews informs Maria that she needs to transfer Angel out of homicide in case the press gets a hold of their relationship, and tries to embarrass the precinct.
This department can't risk a defense attorney turning your romantic involvement into a courtroom sideshow every time you work a case together. I am saying I need you to transfer Sergeant Batista out of homicide.
Tom?
Have the papers on my desk by Monday.
Dexter then heads over to Deb's crime scene, where Deb yells at Dexter for lying to Rita about the apartment.
What the fuck's your problem? You have everything. You're doing your goddamn best to throw it all away.
Rita told you about the apartment.
The fuck were you thinking?
Sometimes I feel trapped.
By what? 3 kids? A wife who adores you? Yesterday, I had Lundy and Anton. And now they're gone because of me. It doesn't matter what I do, or what I choose. I'm what's wrong. Nothing I can do about it. If I'm not hurting myself, I am hurting everyone around me. There's nothing I can do about it.
Deb then breaks down in tears and sobs over Lundy's death.
Why don't we go back to the house?
Don't. I need to be here. Or Lundy died. I can't do a fucking thing about it.
And I'll say it again, Jennifer Carpenter deserved a fucking Emmy this season. At the apartment, Rita confronts Dexter about the chest in his closet. Dexter opens the chest and shows Rita that it is just an old hunting rifle of Harry's. She still doesn't really take to this all that well.
The most disturbing thing about your lying, I'm beginning to see just how good you really are at it. You should sleep here tonight. When you're ready to come home, we have a lot of work to do if this marriage has any hope.
Again, I really, really, really wish that the writers had the balls to have Rita explore this just a little bit more. But spoilers, in the end, everything's fine. A little bit later on, Dexter goes into that gigantic building to look for Trinity, and eventually distracts the security guard so that he can look at the security cameras and find out where Trinity is.
Oh my God.
Dexter sees Trinity's van leaving, so he jumps in his car and follows the van to Trinity's suburban home.
Hi, honey.
Lundy was wrong. I was wrong. Neither of us knew pieces of the puzzle were missing. He's like me.
Which further adds another layer onto Arthur that I and many others were not expecting. Up until this point, we haven't been shown anything about this supposed double life that Trinity lives. We've only seen him stalking his prey, watching coverage of his own kills, and committing those murders. Like Dexter, who's having to learn all of this information at once, we were also kept in the dark on this aspect of Trinity's character. It led to this really awesome chase sequence and reveal, and it completely flips the narrative on its head. He's not just like a lone, crazed old man. He's a family man. He's, as we'll come to learn, a deacon at a church. He's a teacher. That adds just another layer onto Trinity that I think Dexter can relate to as well, as he's also viewed kind of in the same way as neighborhood all-American like father figure. This episode is definitely not one of my faves, but what I will say about it is Jennifer Carpenter completely owns the entire episode. She steals every single scene that she's in this episode, and I won't be taking any questions about it. Deborah's grief for Lundy is executed extremely well in this episode. Even though I felt like their relationship was sort of just developing again and therefore could have been featured slightly longer, Lundy's death really kicked the season into the next gear and kind of forced everyone to start taking the Trinity Killer much more seriously, even if they don't all know about him yet. Good episode, but it could have been better in my opinion. Dexter is mean-mugged by Rita, following his apparent slowness to get all of his things out of that apartment and moved into their house. It's here where Rita informs Dexter that she's made a therapy appointment for them to work through their differing issues. Dexter insists that they don't actually have any issues, but he goes along with Rita's wishes, knowing that if he starts up anything with her, it's just gonna lead to more arguing. Just then, Dexter is called to the bludgeoning crime scene. At the scene, Dexter informs Joey that the only thing he can tell him about the blood spatter is that the assailant was over 6 feet tall. Dexter doesn't want the police to get too close to Trinity because he wants to save Trinity for himself, so Dexter purposefully doesn't give out really any other information on this bludgeoning other than the fact that the man is 6 foot tall. Back at the precinct, Deb feels uncomfortable with the fact that Nikki has confessed to all of Johnny Rose's crimes for him other than the Lundy shooting, but Quinn reassures her that there's really no other theory that makes sense. At their therapy appointment, Rita is an emotional wreck, and Dexter can't even bother to understand her feelings.
She's upset about the apartment.
The apartment isn't really the issue right now.
It's not.
You see, it's like he doesn't even listen.
I completely understand Rita's feelings here, but also, Dexter's not playing dumb here. He's emotionally vacant, and Rita doesn't actually know that about Dexter yet. For all she knows, he's just a liar, which is technically true, but she doesn't know anything about Dexter's past or the fact that relationships are just very hard for him to get right. Human connection has never been Dexter's forte, and Rita is blind to that fact, which leaves the two in this situation. At church, Dexter stalks Arthur from one pew over. Afterwards, Arthur introduces himself to Dexter, who was really not expecting it, like, at all.
4 walls, 1 heart. We build homes for the homeless. We meet at my house, then head to the site together. My address is right on the fly.
Dexter confides in Arthur that recently his wife kicked him out, which is why he started attending Arthur's church. Arthur gives him a gentle look and welcomes him to the church, and that's pretty much the scene. It's really just there to set up that these two have finally met and they will now begin some sort of friendship. A little bit later on at the precinct, we learn from Vince that the killer shares DNA with the ashes that he was spreading at the scene of the crime, which is a big break in the case. Elsewhere, Dexter arrives at Arthur's build site. At the water cooler, though, Dexter meets Arthur's son named Jonah to try and discover any cracks in the family.
It's okay. You know, Mom and Dad are big on the family time.
It's nice for too many kids. Family time means fighting time.
Not mine.
Never?
Not much to fight about, really. My parents are cool.
Dexter comes home and tries to bribe his way back into Rita's good graces, giving gifts to all of the kids as well as Rita. Rita claims that they don't need gifts, they need to actually work on the problems that are currently plaguing their relationship, like the lies that Dexter's been telling about getting into a car crash, totaling the car, having a concussion, and keeping the apartment a secret. A little bit later on, Maria and Angel go to Deputy Matthews' office to explain to him that they are no longer seeing each other and there is nothing that he needs to worry about. And he issues them a warning that if they are lying about this situation, then one or possibly both of them is going to be fired. Back at Dexter's apartment, Dexter researches Arthur's past and finds out that his sister, mother, and father all died one right after another. This is one of the biggest reveals of the season thus far. Arthur has been recreating his family's deaths for like 30 years now. I talked a lot about the relationship between Dexter and Miguel in my season 3 video, and the things that the two could genuinely relate to each other about, bringing them closer. But I would say that Dexter and Arthur's similarities pretty much top those of Dexter and Miguel's, because Arthur Mitchell's story is just Dexter's story, but more tragic. The next day, after the next build, Dexter purposefully cuts his own finger so that he can get into Arthur's house. It's here where Dexter tries to get a bit closer to Arthur and learn more about his life. While Arthur is away getting a band-aid for Dexter, Dexter learns that Arthur has been using his Habitat for Humanity copycat as a cover for his ritualistic trio of homicides for literal years. Just then, Dexter finds what he believes to be his sister's urn, as it says Vera on it, and Dexter decides to do this.
Okay, let's have a look at that hand.
Don't touch my sister. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
After apologizing for this outburst, Arthur decides to give Dexter some familial advice before sending him off with a parting gift, that being the hammer that he used to bludgeon someone with in the previous episode. The next morning, Deb explains her theory that Trinity killed Lundy and shot her before he took all of Lundy's research on him. This completely reinvigorates Deb, who's been a little out of whack emotionally since the shooting. One thing about Deborah is that she always needs a goal to strive towards. She's very much like Dexter in that regard, where if she doesn't feel like she's doing anything, then she's not going to be happy or fulfilled. The end of the episode sees Dexter and Rita building a shed in their backyard so that Dexter can keep all of his things, including all of the evidence and murder weapons at his disposal. This episode is another really good one. Dexter's on-screen introduction to Arthur finally allowed for the duo's chemistry to start to shine. Deb's arc in this episode is also handled extremely well. I really liked that in this episode, she went through the stages of grief through her questioning of Nikki in the prison cell. There's a real sense here that she has fundamentally been changed forever and will likely never be the same. Kind of on the same level as when Brian tried to kill her. Just fantastic character work going on in this episode. Bravo to the writers and Jennifer Carpenter again. A few weeks after the previous episode, Dexter is called down to a crime scene, and when he arrives, he is shocked to find out that the body they are investigating has been swallowed by an alligator. Well, the arm of the human was swallowed by the alligator. The woman was a model, and she was scheduled to have a shoot with this photographer who's known for some pretty sketchy photography, to say the least. The department believes that Jonathan Farrow, the photographer that I just told you about, is the one that killed this woman and then fed her arm to an alligator due to his past of being accused of rape. Later on, though, Farrow comes in with a slew of lawyers to help him during his interview with the police. And let's just say he doesn't do himself any favors during the interview.
Not like you. I can make you a star. I just need to get you in my studio, whip your clothes off, and rough you up a little bit.
The next day, Deborah meets with Harry's former CI. Deb continuing down this path is literally like eating her alive a little bit because it's completely destroying her image of Harry, whom she previously saw as the epitome of a good man. Sleeping with your CI, cheating on your wife, that is not the hallmark of a stand-up guy in Deb's eyes. At first, she was kind of doing this to try and relate to Harry and to see if she was really that big of a disappointment in Harry's eyes, like compared to Harry. But now she's learning way too much about his past. She doesn't really want to know any of that now. And so I think she gives Dexter those files so that she can kind of just put it to rest. And this allows Dexter to now shred Laura Moser's file so that Deb never gets to research Laura, find out that Dexter was related to Brian. The next morning, Dexter takes Cody and 3 of his friends on a boating trip with some of their neighborhood dads. And a little bit later on, while everyone is asleep, Dexter gets back on his boat and heads all the way to that photography studio to kidnap the photographer, Jonathan Farrow. He makes quick work of Jonathan before returning to the campsite in the morning. There's almost no tension throughout the whole thing, and it just feels like Dexter never really had that much to do with Farrow. It wasn't very hard for Dexter to get to Farrow, despite the circumstances of him literally being on a camping trip with Cody. Oh, also around this time in the episode, at the precinct, Deb fully brings her theory to Maria, who completely accepts Deb's theory, although Deb left quite a few details out, as she only mentioned the bludgeonings. A few days later, Dexter walks back into work and witnesses Farrow's assistant being arrested for the girl's murder. This reveals that Dexter killed someone who was innocent for only the second time in the series. In the grander scheme of this season, I can't say that this weighs too hard on Dexter as a character. Like, he moves on from this way too fast. They talk about it at the beginning of the next episode, and not they, but like Dexter talks about it to himself in the beginning of next episode, and then he beats himself up about it for like a second, and then he moves on. This is one of the episodes of the season that is good, but definitely could have been shortened or combined with another episode. Joey trying to track down Dexter at that bar, and then Dexter having to go on that camping trip, both interrupted Dexter's killing of Farrow, but neither actually steps in the way all that much. This whole episode kind of feels inconsequential to me. It's like they had to make up problems just to make it harder for Dexter to achieve his filler kill this season, that being Farrow. His main focus isn't even on Farrow in this episode, he's just passing the time because it's a case that lands at Miami Metro. A few weeks later, Miami Metro has begun questioning Farrow's assistant that they arrested in the previous episode. Batista and Maria lay out their plan to get the man to confess to Farrow's murder now that Farrow is missing. This makes Dexter really uncomfortable because he ended up killing someone who was completely innocent in the last episode, and now he has to watch the repercussions of that. Deb then briefs everybody on her bludgeoning investigation, which makes Dexter even more uncomfortable because that means that she is getting closer to figuring out who the Trinity Killer is, possibly derailing Dexter's plan to kill Trinity himself. Also, Deb lets it slip by accident that she is looking into the bathtub murders as well.
I can't be sure all of these are ash marks, but the finger pointing indicates a strong possibility that, how'd they get in there?
Whoa. Did you go back? This isn't a bludgeoning.
No.
When you presented this case to me, you said it was limited to a bludgeoner.
I found possible smudges in several old bathtub killings. Also, several jumper suicides. And that's the pattern. Bathtub, jumper, bludgeon. One cycle of 3 Vicks every year or so.
Go on.
Honestly, Maria takes it pretty well. Dexter remains supportive of Deb even though he doesn't want Miami Metro to get closer to his baby, that being catching Trinity himself. You can tell though that Dexter is fighting absolutely every impulse to shoot Deb's theory down. A little bit later on, Dexter goes to Arthur's house and notices that Arthur is in a particularly good mood when compared to the last time they hung out together. Despite being in this good mood, Arthur quickly loses his temper with his son, who is not polishing his car to Arthur's liking, and then he yells at his daughter Rebecca for not watering the plants properly. So Dexter's beginning to notice the cracks in the foundation of this family after only a few weeks of knowing them. A little bit later on at the precinct, Deb reveals to Dexter that she has been removed from Trinity's case, seeing as she is a potential victim of his, thus creating a conflict of interest. The next morning, Dexter stops by Arthur's house and practically begs Arthur to let him go along with him on his trip.
And with you, I feel focused, like I have a sense of purpose and certainty.
Arthur reluctantly agrees to let Dexter come along, thanks to Dexter's manipulations, and the two get on the road. On the way to Tampa, Dexter purposefully asks Arthur a slew of questions to get on Arthur's nerves. Arthur knows that Kyle sees him as a mentor of sorts, but in Arthur's eyes, Kyle is just so annoying that it makes it incredibly hard for Arthur to take him seriously. Still though, you can really get the sense that Arthur is trying his absolute hardest to stomach how annoying Dexter is being. While stopping for food, Dexter tells Arthur that he sought him out for advice as he did something he's not proud of.
How am I supposed to help you when I don't know what the problem is?
It's not that important.
It's important to me.
Every single thing that Dexter says and does is a calculated move to simply piss Arthur off in this episode. Dexter is playing a character here. He's the same guy right now that taunted Miguel Prado last season and made him go crazy. There's then this wonderful scene between the two where Arthur tries to get to the bottom of what Dexter's been hiding. Dexter then drops this bomb on Arthur to see how he'll react.
I'm gonna get into my van and just leave you here to fend for yourself.
Kill the man.
You killed someone?
You, of all people, act appalled.
Arthur is using the word of God to justify Dexter's actions, and Dexter assumes that Arthur also applies this same reasoning to his own kills. That night, Arthur excitedly drops by Dexter's hotel room and tells him he's got a surprise for him in the morning. The next morning, Arthur does whatever the hell this is.
Practically sprang out of bed. You ready for this? So ready. That's the spirit.
Okay, Arthur. What are we doing? A little bit later on, Arthur then maniacally forces his way into his childhood home, despite the fact that there are other people living in it currently, so he can show Dexter where it all began.
This is where it all started.
What started here?
But Vera saw me. In the mirror. I startled her and she slipped, shattered the shower doors. The glass sliced her leg. She was dead by the time the ambulance came. So much blood.
Arthur doesn't let the mask fully slip here, but he lets Dexter in on all of the traumatic things that happened to him when he was a child. Arthur's confession in this scene is the first time he's ever told anybody about his past. Before this episode, this tragic story was almost inferred thanks to Dexter's investigation into Trinity. But now that Dexter knows the whole truth from Arthur's perspective, it makes it a lot harder for Dexter to kill Trinity off just like that. Because Dexter has started to see the real human under Arthur's mask, and he relates to him, so it's really fucking hard for Dexter to make that jump. Hearing how broken up Arthur still is about all of this makes it so hard for Dexter to see Arthur as a monster. He too was born in blood, just like Dexter. A little bit later on at a restaurant, Dexter checks into the conference that he was supposed to attend so that he can secure an alibi before he returns to the restaurant area and finds Arthur blabbing about his past to a very confused and concerned family. This results in Dexter taking Arthur away so that Arthur will stop embarrassing them, and you can tell Arthur is in a manic state at this moment. At the precinct, Deb figures out that Trinity couldn't have possibly shot her because of the trajectory of the bullet as it went straight through her, not like down or up at an angle or anything like that. It went straight through, meaning someone who was 6 foot or 6'4" wouldn't have been able to shoot someone at Deb's height where she was shot. This is big fucking news for Deb, because this might mean that Deb could get back on the Trinity case, as there is no longer any reason to keep her off, seeing as there's no conflict of interest anymore. That night, Dexter sets up a kill room for Trinity, but when Dexter goes to kidnap him, Trinity is no longer in his hotel room, so Dexter books it to the next build to see if Trinity went there. And the next morning, Dexter finds Trinity about to jump off of the building.
No more confessions, no more good deeds, and no more fucking remorse.
This isn't how you die.
Dexter was ready to let Trinity go, but Trinity sees Dexter saving him as an opportunity to get closer to Dexter. And going forward, Trinity will begin to value Dexter a lot more. This episode is fantastic, and it's where you first get to see Dexter and Arthur's connection truly unfold. Their road trip together is entertaining, tense, fun, and overall it results in a wonderful bonding experience. Even if the duo are both unaware of certain things about each other, they are becoming great companions. I also just have to take this opportunity to praise John Lithgow's performance in this episode. The dancing scene is seriously hilarious and just completely comes out of the blue. The manic rant that he gives to the family at the restaurant, the emotional recollection of his past in his childhood home, and his grumpy attitude towards Dexter in the beginning really sells you on just how bipolar Arthur is as a character. It works phenomenally well, and that is all thanks mostly to John Lithgow's commitment to go all the way with this role. Fantastic character, amazing character work, and a wonderful episode altogether. The beginning of the 9th episode sees Dexter stalking Arthur outside of his house. He notices Arthur breaking Jonah's trophies for baseball one by one, as it's explained by Arthur that if Jonah's not going to play baseball anymore, he shouldn't need his trophies. Dexter follows Jonah and witnesses Jonah beating his dad's car up with a baseball bat.
And you have no idea what he's like.
Dexter has heard about Arthur's traumas and seen his bipolar switch-ups firsthand, but never has Dexter experienced a completely unchecked Arthur behind closed doors like Jonah has.
Well, actually,
he hits me.
That's not right.
Dexter promises to keep Jonah's grievances a secret as long as he is allowed to tag along with Jonah when he delivers the destroyed car back to Arthur in order to lessen the blow. At the office, a lot of headway is being made on the Trinity case. Deb and pretty much everyone else in the precinct is working on this one around the clock. The next morning, Christine Hill drops by the precinct to give her condolences to Deborah.
I just wanted to say I'm really sorry about what happened to you. I can't even imagine looking into the eyes of the person you love, watching as he takes his last breath.
It's one of the only real human scenes that we see of Christine because most of the time she's persuading Joey into giving her information and writing these fuck-ass articles that get the precinct worried. A little bit later on, at Rita and Dexter's house, Deb shows up to find out that Dexter has ditched her for some conference. In reality though, obviously Dexter is on his way to Trinity's. Oh yeah, also Dexter and Rita's neighbor Elliot comes over and they have like a joint Thanksgiving together, and it's kind of awkward because Elliot and Rita are like low-key flirting with each other. Also, Deb invited Masuka to be her wingman, and Masuka makes things awkward too. So just then though, Deb realizes that Trinity must be in the school system because his kills align perfectly with when school is out, like summer vacation, winter vacation, spring break.
His kill schedule matches the school year. Trinity could be a janitor, he could be a cafeteria worker, a bus driver, a teacher, a principal.
Another thing worth mentioning in this section is that Elliot kissed Rita in his house when they were cooking some of the Thanksgiving food. Why are we doing this? Dexter then drops by Arthur's house for Thanksgiving, and let's just say things are very awkward.
Will the kids be joining us?
That, too, would be tradition, but apparently Jonah has forgotten.
I'm sure he's on his way. He knows how important holidays are to you.
Dexter immediately senses that the vibes are just off here. Arthur is in a mood because Jonah is late to the party, and Arthur's wife, Sally, looks like she's coming apart at the seams under her sunny, all-American mother persona. Rebecca comes out of her room joyfully, and it's like we're stuck in the Matrix here.
At least I have one perfect child.
Yeah, so it would appear.
When Dexter first met Arthur, he was astounded by the fact that Arthur was seemingly able to uphold a traditional American family and maintain his status as a deacon of a church while being the most heinous serial killer in Miami history. Scratch that, in American history. The closer that Dexter gets to Arthur and his family, though, he has started to notice more and more cracks within the foundation of this so-called perfect American family. I think this season works on a number of levels, but one of my favorite ideas that this season explores extremely well is the concept of the nuclear family and just how one's perception of their neighbors is not necessarily how they behave and function behind closed doors. Arthur, and by extension his family, may seem like your regular, everyday, all-American church-going family of four, but there are real problems here that Dexter clocks within a few weeks of knowing them. Arthur clearly has a temper and high expectations of his children. These expectations often exceed their abilities, not because they're not trying to appease their father, but because Arthur's expectations are just simply unrealistic. He wants everything done in a very specific way. And now, with Jonah being late to dinner, it's put Arthur in a mood and likely led to him lashing out at Rebecca just before Dexter got there, forcing her to be locked in her room like she's not a late teenager with independence. Now that Dexter is there though, she is allowed out of her room, and she kindly greets Dexter before asking if she can help Sally with dinner. Because Rebecca is doing everything according to Arthur's plan and meeting his expectations, she is suddenly awarded the perfect child title by Arthur. Because she plays her part exactly how Arthur wants, following her mother into the kitchen to complete dinner, Rebecca is afforded a much nicer dad, which I think is the most well-executed part of this season. Arthur's characterization may seem random and all over the place when we first meet him, but as time goes on, we begin to realize that his presence in the season is really a deconstruction of the American patriarchal figure. Obviously, the average dad in America isn't committing 3 kills every other month, but I personally know a lot of people that can relate to having their fathers be this abhorrent to them. And as a husband too, you truly get the sense that Sally's agency has been completely taken away in order to give Arthur his picture-perfect family. The nervousness and uneasiness inside of Sally's eyes and her willingness to cave under pressure around Arthur truly informs the idea that Arthur is manipulative and controlling of her as well. It's here when Jonah arrives home and Arthur sees the windshield. Arthur puts on a happy face and pretends that he doesn't mind. During the football game, Dexter leaves to help Sally in the kitchen, and Arthur uses this opportunity to break Jonah's fucking finger. Elsewhere, Dexter snoops in Rebecca's room, noticing how juvenile it looks for someone her age. Dexter then notices the locks on the windows and doors, further exposing Arthur's strict parenting style here. Outside, Dexter talks to Rebecca, who is picking flowers. Rebecca then throws herself onto Dexter in a really awkward scene.
You're nice to me. I can be nice to you. I'll do anything you want.
Well, I don't... Rebecca, you're 15.
Sally, it's not.
I am so sorry about Rebecca's behavior. Please don't say anything to Arthur. Whatever you did with Rebecca...
I didn't.
Whatever you're going to do, I don't care. Just please, don't tell him.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Huh? This fucking family is on the verge of collapse. During dinner, Arthur asks everyone what they are thankful for, and none of them mention his name. This sends him into a full-on psychotic rant.
Thank you all for the comfort of your home, where no one said they were thankful for me. Did you, Jonah? Did you say you were thankful for me, Jonah?
I am so thankful for you, Arthur.
Shut up. Whoa, Arthur. Kyle, perhaps it's time for you to go.
The scene then erupts into a huge fight. Jonah destroys Vera's urn, prompting Arthur to attack and choke Jonah out. Dexter then sneaks up behind Arthur and uses his belt to pin him to the ground. Dexter then pulls out a knife on Arthur, and Sally breaks it up. Dexter leaves Thanksgiving in a fury. He's now shown Dexter exactly who he is, and scared him half to death in the process. What will their relationship be like now? Dexter knows that killing Arthur is going to be a whole heck of a lot harder now that Arthur expects him to do it. On his way home, Dexter tries to reassure himself that he is nothing like Arthur, and towards the end of the episode, Deb realizes while talking to Cody that Christine Hill knew something that no one else knew about the day that she was shot.
How much did you tell Christine about the Lundy shooting?
Nothing.
Well, maybe you left Lundy's file lying around accidentally.
I learned my lesson. I never even took the Lundy files out of the station. There's no way she could have seen it.
Dinner's ready.
And at the end of the episode, after Joey leaves Christine's house, guess who fucking shows up at Christine's door? Arthur Mitchell. And guess what she says to him right before we cut to black?
Hi, Dad.
That's right. Christine Hill is Arthur Mitchell's daughter. What a fucking twist that is. Christine is presented at the beginning of the season as this throwaway side character that is just there to stir up drama by trying to get to the bottom of the Trinity killings so she can write her articles before any other reporters. But when she starts dating Joey and manipulates him into giving her information, she's shown to be a lot more bloodthirsty than we originally took her to be. And in this episode, we get 2 gigantic reveals about her character. One, that she knows more than she's letting on about Deb's shooting, and 2, she's fucking related to Trinity! Absolutely stellar episode. This is one of my favorite episodes of the whole season, just for its pacing, everything we learn about Trinity, and this last twist with Christine being Trinity's daughter. Weeks later, Dexter follows Arthur into a parking lot. He sees him stalking a family of 4 on their way to an arcade. Dexter watches the mother, anticipating that Arthur is going to pick her as his next victim. Failing to notice, Arthur actually goes after the boy and kidnaps him in his van. Dexter eventually catches up to Arthur, but Arthur gets away. Arthur then calls Dexter from his car.
Kyle, I don't appreciate being followed. Arthur, what are you doing? I don't know what you think you saw, but I promise I'll preserve this boy's innocence.
Arthur brings Scott to a bunker. It's clear that Arthur is trying to force Scott into the role of Arthur, but Scott and the audience don't exactly know why. We get the sense that Arthur's trying to fulfill some sort of fantasy. A little bit later on, though, while researching Trinity, Dexter learns that Arthur's kill cycle actually resets after 4 kills instead of 3.
Matthew Hicks, 10 years old, went to the local pool, never came home. 5 days before, a woman was found murdered in her bathtub. Innocence.
Arthur said that's what he'd preserve in the boy he took.
Omaha, another 10-year-old goes missing. Denver.
Lundy misread the pattern.
It's not 3 victims he leaves behind, it's 4. My God, the boys begin the cycle.
The only reason why we had assumed that it was 3 kills up until this very moment is because Lundy never caught on to the 4th kill, that being a missing child. Here, Dexter is coming to the conclusion that not only does Trinity recreate his family's deaths in this meticulous cycle, but he also kind of recreates the death of his own innocence, and that is what is supposed to be represented here with Trinity forcing Scott to call himself Arthur. At the precinct, Deb agrees to do an interview with Christine. Deb believes that Christine is just a little bit off, and so she's hoping to use this interview as a way to sort of get a little bit closer to Christine and figure out exactly what she meant by the words that she said the other day during Thanksgiving. Batista watches this interview from the security camera, and Christine squeamishly tries to leave the interview early.
Forensically, we're at a dead end with the Lundy case. So I just stare at these, looking for answers. You live over in the Gables, right? The Gables, that's what, like 60 minutes from the hotel where Frank was staying?
I guess.
Wow, you sure got to the crime scene fast.
There's no traffic at 5 a.m.
Oh, I know that. But dispatch didn't put out the call till 5:05. You were the first reporter on scene at 5:20.
Afterwards, Deb and Batista both agree that she knows more than she's letting on. Eventually, Dexter, with the help of Jonah, figures out that Trinity is using an empty house that is up for sale to hide and potentially kill this boy that he's kidnapped. So Dexter has Jonah fax over the list of houses that Trinity was researching in order to narrow down his search. In the middle of this episode, Christine calls Arthur and we get a much clearer picture of their relationship.
I can't wait another 4 months until my birthday. Can we meet in between our usual visits?
There's a reason why we only see each other a couple of times a year, Christine. I have a full life and a family who needs me.
I'm your family too. I need you. More than they do.
Sorry, sweetie, it'll have to wait. Love you.
I love that the show went here with these two characters, bringing them together, because they're arguably the 2 biggest villains in this season, and bringing them together through a familial relationship is really interesting. After Scott fully submits and starts playing trains with Trinity, Trinity poisons Scott with ice cream. Then there's another scene right towards the end of the episode where Christine begins to learn the truth about Arthur.
I saw you that night. Back when I was 5. You told me to stay in the car, but I didn't. And I saw you in the bathtub with her.
It was a dream.
It wasn't. I knew it wasn't when it happened again in the same house 30 years later.
She then reveals that she protected her dad by killing Lundy herself because Lundy was getting too close to him and she didn't want her dad to be found out as the biggest serial killer in the United States. Arthur flips the fuck out about this, but doesn't let her see any of his emotions towards the situation, waiting until, she leaves to freak out in his car. It's honestly such a tragic story and a really well acted scene by both of the actors. To see this woman absolutely desperate for her dad's approval and in order to keep her dad safe, but still low-key being so fucking horrified of him is wonderful writing. And also, like I said, the acting here, phenomenal. Elsewhere, Dexter heads to the next Four Walls build in a last-ditch effort to find Arthur red-handed, and luckily for him, he's able to find him. The duo have a physical altercation while Scott begins to sink under cement, unconscious in a body bag. Arthur is able to flee the scene, and Dexter saves Scott's life, and at the end of the episode, Christine is arrested. What a fucking episode. This entire reveal of Christine being Trinity's kid and knowing about his crimes for years, but protecting him in spite of it all because she loves him, despite his piss poor treatment of her, is such a well-written twist on the season. It comes completely out of left field and isn't anything the audience is expecting on first watch. Every time I get to this part of the season, it's like I'm watching the show for the very first time again. Dexter's search for the little boy also carries this episode really well, in my personal opinion. The show is really firing on all cylinders currently, and it's no question why so many consider this season to be the peak of the show, because everything has a purpose in the story of this season. Unlike season 3, which I felt had a lot of filler, this one is so tight and condensed and well thought out. When writing this video, I wasn't even able to believe that we were 10 episodes deep at this point because it's been paced so extremely well. 10 out of 10 episode, let's get on into the next one. The beginning of the episode sees Christine being questioned by Batista about her upbringing. Predictably, she lies and says that she never met her father. Dexter watches from the TV and agrees that Christine must be Arthur's kid. Dexter then forges a plan to use a decoy Trinity to distract Miami Metro in order for him to be able to catch the real one. Elsewhere, Deputy Matthews brings both LaGuardia and Batista into his office to have a chat.
We were off duty and...
Two of my senior people who had signed sworn affidavits with the department stating that there was no romantic involvement between them.
If you just let me explain.
There's nothing to explain. You both lied under oath. You committed perjury.
Tom tells them that in 2 days there will be a hearing to determine whether or not both of them can keep their jobs. Maria protests Tom's decision to do this, claiming that he's had it out for her entire career because she's a woman, and Tom simply calls her arrogant. Elsewhere, at a hotel, Arthur sees that Scott was found by someone that was not Dexter, and this prompts him to call Dexter. While on the phone, Arthur lies about being in Miami as he doesn't want Dexter to know that he's still there. This is when Arthur rips out a phone book and searches through the Kyle Butler names for Dexter's address. Dexter decides he's going to frame a Stan Beaudry for the crimes of Trinity in order to get Miami on his trail. Before he's able to do this though, Dexter has a therapy appointment with Rita that he basically tries to skip because he gets a phone call from the station demanding his attention. Rita and Dexter haven't even gone into their therapy appointment and Dexter's already trying to make up an excuse to leave, or at least that's what Rita thinks. This is when Rita tells Dexter the truth about her kissing Elliot. Dexter just kind of is like, okay, I don't have time to deal with this. I need to go. So Dexter leaves her at the therapy appointment. Dexter then heads to that crime scene and discovers that the man who died is named Kyle Butler.
What's his name?
Kyle Butler.
Arthur Mitchell's in Miami, and he's looking for me.
Anticipating Arthur's next move, Dexter heads to a random Kyle Butler's apartment, knocks the man out, and hides with the lights off. Hours go by and Trinity finally arrives. However, he is sent away by a party of people who are right outside the door. Meanwhile, Angel and Deb raid Christine's apartment and find those postcards from Arthur. When Angel brings the postcards to Christine, she yet again plays coy about the whole situation. Also in this scene, Batista officially accuses Christine of killing Lundy, claiming that Christine did this to protect Trinity. The next morning, Deb goes into the interview room to try and get Christine to out her father. Whatever Deb is saying to Christine clearly isn't sticking for her. You can tell it's definitely affecting Christine, but she's really not wavering and she's still pretending like she doesn't know anything, even demanding to see a lawyer. In another scene, Dexter is called down to the station so he can bear witness to Angel and Maria's wedding. I just love the implication here that Dexter's the one that they have to call because he's the only one that knows about them. I also love that Dexter was like literally the only guy not at work that day, and he still had to go in just to bear witness to their wedding. A little bit later on, Dexter makes really quick work of Stan Beaudry, killing him in the back of his semi-truck before planting DNA evidence and Christine's picture in the man's truck, which pretty much seals the deal on Beaudry being the Trinity Killer. That night, Dexter returns home and gives Elliot a warning outside of his house.
Stay the hell away from my wife. Jesus. Dex.
After returning inside, Rita gives Dexter an ice pack, and the two kind of reconcile after all of the disagreements that they've had this whole season. The next morning, Batista and Maria tell Matthews about their marriage, which basically gives him no right to fire either of them. Say what you want about Tom, he's not technically wrong here. This was pretty much just a political ploy on the part of Maria so that both of them could keep their jobs. And, you know, it worked, but I don't think she would have married Batista if this wasn't thrown her way, you know, like as a possibility. Elsewhere, Christine finally calls Arthur, and Arthur pretty much disowns her over the phone.
I'm your daughter.
I'm sorry, Christine.
I'm sorry too.
I'm sorry you were ever born. Do not call me again, ever.
Ooh, Christine, don't make that face. That night, Christine calls Deb into her apartment and fully confesses to killing Lundy and being Trinity's daughter.
He's a killer.
He is. He is.
He made his own choices.
And I'm just like him. Your dad was a cop. So you said, hey, I'll be a cop too. Maybe then he'll love me. You know what I did? I shot you. I killed Lundy.
After this confession, Christine asks Deb if she can forgive her for killing Lundy, and Deb reacts like this.
Can you forgive me?
Are you kidding me? I came here to do a job. I came here to take you in and to get justice for Lundy, but forgive you? Fuck you.
This is when Christine pulls out a handgun and shoots herself in the head, killing herself. Genuinely, this is one of the best acted scenes in the entire show. Both of these women are phenomenal in their roles. Seeing them go head to head here makes for a really compelling scene. Back at the arcade, Dexter is stalking Trinity, and he gets a call from Dexter, who asks him to come back down to the station because she needs a little emotional support currently, since she just witnessed Christine commit suicide. This forces Dexter to make a choice. Is he gonna continue the hunt for Trinity, or is he gonna go try and be there for Deb, who's just been through a traumatic event? This is the warning that Ghost Harry issued to Dexter at the beginning of the season, and also the warning that Zoe Kruger issued to Dexter in, I believe it was the 4th episode. He's gonna have to make a choice between murder and his family. Balancing being a vigilante with a good husband, brother, and father has officially taken a toll on Dexter. Anyway, at the end of the episode, it's revealed that Trinity was the one watching Dexter the whole time at the carnival, and that his phone call to Dexter was literally just a ploy so that he could meet him there. He ends up following Dexter to the station, fully reintroducing himself to Dexter Morgan.
Hello, Dexter Morgan.
This episode's pacing is phenomenal. This is one of like the top 5 episodes of the series in my opinion. I mean, the Stan Beaudry stuff could have been a whole episode, but it's crammed in here in about like 5 or 10 minutes, and it doesn't even feel unearned either. Every single step of Dexter's plan feels fully realized, and the same can be said about Trinity. This is genuinely just a stellar episode, and it leads really, really, really well into the finale. So without further ado, let's get on into what I consider to be the best episode of the series, The Getaway. Picking up right where the last episode left off, Arthur demands that Dexter leave him alone. The deal is off. Dexter's not getting that money that he demanded from Arthur. Arthur is basically drawing the line in the sand that, I've got some dirt on you now, I know who you are. After Arthur gets in his car, Dexter follows suit and gets in his, chasing Arthur through the city before Arthur eventually stops at a bank. On the road, Dexter gets a call from Rita, who demands that they actually spend the next weekend on their honeymoon, like a year after they got married, because they didn't get to have one when Rita was pregnant and they were dealing with the kids. But since the kids are going to Disneyland this weekend, Rita says that they should go on their honeymoon finally. And Dexter's like, yeah, I don't really have time to deal with this. I'm going on a chase right now. So he hangs up the phone and eventually gets to Trinity, who has stopped at a bank. Finally, Dexter catches up to Trinity and knocks him out with M99. This guy, who Dexter rammed into, calls the cops on Dexter, and Dexter ends up getting flustered with these two officers that are talking to him.
I didn't flee. I was in a hurry to solve a crime.
So you stop at a bank? That's bullshit.
Just asking for a little professional courtesy here.
You might pull that shit down at Miami Metro, but here at the Sheriff's Department, we don't put up with that.
Come on.
Caught on tape, asshole.
Point that at me. All right.
This gets Dexter arrested, sent to a holding cell. Rita then picks Dexter up because they can't keep him overnight, which is like the most lucky thing that's ever happened to Dexter. She brings Dexter to that bank where his car is before he heads over to the van to see if Trinity is still there, and he finds out that Trinity has escaped. Elsewhere, Deb reconnects with Valerie, Harry's former CI, who brings Deb to Laura Moser's house. Deb obviously knows this house because she was once tied down in it when Brian Moser, her ex-boyfriend, you know, the ice truck killer from season 1, tried to kill her in it. So now Deb knows the truth after 4 fucking seasons and more than 2 years of her life. She finally knows the truth about Brian Moser being Laura Moser's son and Laura Moser being Harry's CI. A little bit later on, Deborah returns to the apartment and does some more research on Laura, eventually realizing that Brian Moser and Dexter are brothers. That night at Dexter's house, Rita gives Dexter hope that he can conquer his dark side.
The most important person in our lives. What's upsetting me is the idea of losing you. You have your demons. I accept that because I know that you don't have to be a slave to them.
I wish that were true.
It is. I know you better than you know yourself. You can conquer whatever darkness there is in you. I know you can.
Elsewhere at the precinct, Deb gets Scott, the little boy that Trinity kidnapped, to draw a picture for her of a logo that he saw in the back of Trinity's van. This logo is the logo of Trinity's Four Walls build thing that he's a part of, and so this allows the police to narrow their search to people who work for this nonprofit. Dexter drops by Arthur's house and asks his family where Trinity is. Just then, Dexter is forced to hide in the garage because a fucking SWAT team has just arrived at Trinity's house. Later on, Deb breaks the news to Dexter about Laura Moser being his mother. Dexter pretends that he's hearing this information for the first time and that Deb is the one breaking the news to him.
Laura Moser is your biological mother.
Don't say the rest. Don't know it.
The other little boy, your brother, was named Brian. Brian Moser. The ice truck killer.
And a little bit later on, Trinity's car breaks down on the side of the road. This allows Dexter to attack him from behind.
Hello, Arthur Mitchell.
And Dexter finally ties Trinity down to his kill table. Dexter reveals that he's just like Arthur, sick and twisted in his own way. This was never about money or religion or Dexter's failed relationship. Dexter explains to Arthur that they are one and the same, but the difference between them is that Dexter wants to be a good man. He wants to be there for his family, and he wants his family to thrive.
You'll still be you.
I have a family too, Arthur. I'm good. For them.
You're like a child. You dream of a heaven you'll never see.
I don't believe in heaven.
Oh, but you do. This isn't your doing. This is God's plan. I accept that now. You have to do the same.
Arthur accepts his fate, and we say goodbye to him one last time as Dexter bludgeons the man. Dexter then buries Arthur at sea, finally concluding the best showdown of the entire series. Dexter heads home and checks his missed messages. He notices that Rita left a voicemail on his phone.
Hey, sweetie. I'm a
Dope. I was in such a rush to get Harrison organized, I forgot my ID for the plane.
This is when Dexter realizes that Rita never made it to the Keys and that all of her luggage is still in the house. This can only mean one thing. Dexter makes his way to the bathroom and finds Harrison in a pool of his mother's blood. In the exact same fucking way that Dexter was born in blood, Harrison is born in blood. To close out this season, Dexter leaves us with one last grim realization, and that is that Ghost Harry was right. Dexter has to make a choice. He can't be this vigilante anymore and have a family. The episode ends on that note, and oh my gosh, I could tell going into this episode for the first time I ever watched this years ago, that this was going to be my favorite episode of the whole show. Bar none, it was fantastic before this twist. But this last twist of the episode truly solidifies this as the peak of this entire fucking show. The stellar pacing throughout this episode really cannot be understated. It truly flies by, and it leaves you wanting so much more out of this season, especially when you see what comes after season 4. The quality takes a little bit of a dip, and I'm not saying season 5 is bad. I'm a season 5 defender, okay? But some of the seasons after that, they don't have the same vibe, and it's all because Rita is no longer in the show after this point. Trinity's death is both satisfying and also tragic when you realize that Trinity had the opportunity to explain to Dexter that he's already won because he killed Rita, but Trinity decided to just not say anything and let Dexter figure that out on his own, completely traumatizing him in the process. When I say that they don't make TV villains like this anymore, I'm talking about this.
This isn't your doing. This is God's plan. I accept that now. You have to do the same.
I accept nothing.
Every other season of Dexter so far has ended on a positive note, with Dexter killing each of the big bads and there being some kind of epilogue at the very end to sort of bring us back down to reality. Not this fucking episode, though. There's a fake out right before this twist where there's a scene of all the kids playing and Rita playing and Dexter playing with all of them, and Dexter's monologue is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna continue to live my life the way I want. No. We get tragedy in this episode at the very end, where Rita is no longer in Dexter's life. Harrison has just been fucking scarred at like 6 months old. Not only did Rita just like die, she dies in the most gut-wrenching way imaginable. When I first watched this show and I got to this point, I had to take a break. I had to take a breather for like a week. And I went outside, like when I first stopped watching this, I went outside and I literally sat outside for like an hour or two on the verge of fucking tears because of how tragic this is. I don't think you understand how much Rita's death affected me because it's just something you're not expecting when you're watching the show. But after Rita dies, there's just such a switch in vibes and in Dexter's character, and it's kind of a shame because it kind of needed to happen. Like, there was really nowhere else for Dexter and Rita to go. But part of me is still so selfishly wanting Rita to be in the show after season 4 because she's such a wonderful presence for the show. As a person, Rita was one of the only, like, truly kind-hearted, good people in this fucking show, and you're gonna kill her off? And in the last 2 videos on this series that I've done, I know that I've kind of shat on Rita's writing a little bit and claimed that she needed more agency, but that's only because I fucking care about the character, and I feel like she was done dirty a little bit. I do, because, like, she is in service to Dexter as a character, but post-season 2, I don't feel like there's much for her to do, really. Like, her whole storyline just revolves around Dexter, whereas, like, all the other characters get storylines that have to do with other things. And I guess that's just a facet of Rita not being a cop. You know, like, she's just a stay-at-home mom, but I don't know, like, it just feels like she doesn't have the agency that the other characters have, and her dying in the 4th season before many of the other main characters did is kind of proof of that. Rita's death fundamentally changes the show. For better or worse, after this episode, the show definitely peaks and goes down. Not only is this the best season of the show, but I'm gonna go out and say that this episode is the best episode of Dexter of all time. It's probably my favorite season of TV of all time, honestly. There's like one episode in there that I think could be cut, or at least could have had something added to it to be better, and that is the vandalism episode. Like, I think it was episode 3. That was just kind of a filler episode, but every other fucking episode just hits so hard. All the storylines that weave in with each other, like the Christine Hill and Trinity connection. Are we joking here? Rest in peace to Rita Morgan, actually. You will be sorely missed. I'm not even fucking joking. Like, I get emotional about this shit still. I have one more message before I lay this video to rest. Clyde Phillips, you've done some wonderful work in the past. I'll even go out on a limb and say that this is your best work, but you genuinely deserve jail time. You deserve the electric chair for doing this to Rita. And that's all I have to say on the matter. I think it's time I get out of here because I'm way too emotional right now, and I think I need to go get outside or something to relax. Anyway, bye. God damn it. This fucking show sucks.